Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the introduction of Romeo and Juliet. We're going to talk about Shakespeare in general and the prologue a little bit. And as we go through this unit, we're going to be using these videos to go through, but we're going to focus on three things as we go through. We're going to look at what the text says, first of all, and learn what the story is, and just basic comprehension stuff. We've been doing this all year. We're going to look at what the text teaches. We're going to find those themes and central ideas, just like we've been doing with each story as we've gone along. And we're going to look at how Shakespeare teaches us those things, those literary elements and techniques that are in your notes sections of your binders. So we'll be reviewing a few of those and seeing how he incorporates those into his story. There's three things you're going to need for this particular video. You're going to need a snack. You're definitely going to need some patience. It'd be helpful if you had an adult nearby, because parents have a hard time with this too. I was an adult before this stuff started to click for me. So press pause a moment, go get the things that you need. If you can get a snack, get a snack. Got a parent at home, guardian at home, go get them, have them come through for the next few minutes. Hey guys, welcome back. All right, I'm a happy guy. I got my coffee. Got myself an egg sandwich. We're gonna have ourselves a good class today. Let's start off, let's get rid of some myths right now. Now, for a lot of you and parents that are listening, you might back me up on this one. We exited high school thinking that Shakespeare was Old English. It's not Old English, it's modern English. It's not as modern as now, it's early modern English, but it's not Old English. Guys, there's a story called Beowulf that was originally written in Old English. There's a picture of the very first few lines of Beowulf on your screen. Old English was closer to German than what we speak now. And in fact, that very first line right there, that first word, is pronounced viat. What it means is listen. Sounds kind of like quiet, right? And the narrator would speak that one very bluntly, boldly, suddenly, to get the crowd's attention when they would recite this particular poem. So it's not, you and I couldn't understand Old English, but we could understand Middle English if we heard it out loud. It's hard to read Middle English if you've heard of Geoffrey Chaucer and the Canterbury Tales. That would be Middle English, and the words are spelled differently, they're pronounced a little bit differently, and they don't sound the way that we sound now, but if you read it out loud or hear it out loud, you can usually make out what it is. That's Middle English. Biggest difference is a spelling, slight differences in pronunciations. Modern English came about just before Shakespeare started writing, so this is early modern English, but these words that he's using in his plays are words that are in our dictionary now. It gets a little bit confusing because some of them are archaic. You know, people think that thee and thou is formal. It's not. It's actually familiar. And it just means you. Almost every language has more than one word for you. And I had my best professor in college was a guy named Tony Lewis, Dr. Lewis. And he lived in Italy for a while.
Isn't that the guy that tried to block you from taking his class?
Yeah, that was him.
Man, you've got to be a real loser when a professor tries to keep you out of his course.
Be quiet, voice in my head. You're not helpful. So anyway, he told us a story that over in Italy, they were baffled by this whole thing about English only have one word for you. And they said, how do you show somebody how important they are? Where's the formal version of you? That's what you is. That's the formal version, he says. And he said you have to do it through gestures. So, you, welcome, sit here. Because we don't use two different words for you. We just use one. That's what thee and thou is. It's an informal version of you. Now, we also get a little bit confused because Shakespeare had a huge vocabulary. Something like twice or three times what the average author has. And he would use his entire vocabulary when he would write his plays. That's part of why it's good writing. He would also mix poetry and prose. So some parts you'll see the lines don't quite go to the end of the page. That's because he's trying for 10 syllables. And he's trying to create a rhythm with the way that he's writing in a way that most authors can't replicate. And so the reason why we read Shakespeare is because it's good. Now we get to Romeo and Juliet. And we're going to start off with the prologue. 14 lines, all written as poetry. These ones rhyme. You'll notice that the first 4 lines have an A-B pattern, where the first and third lines rhyme and the second and fourth lines rhyme. Same pattern for lines 5 through 8, same again in 9 through 12, and then on lines 13 and 14, those 2 lines rhyme with each other. And he's going to tell us the entire story right there in 14 lines. And it's really kind of similar to the very first chapter in Of Mice and Men. Steinbeck uses foreshadowing to basically tell the entire story in just that one chapter. Think about it. Lenny with the mice in chapter 1. He's sad, he cries because he's got them in his pocket, he wants to pet them. And when the mice go to bite him, he pinches their heads to teach them not to. And he pinches too hard, and that's how they end up dying. And he doesn't understand why they keep on dying. So that's why he wants the rabbits. They're not so little, they won't die so easily. So George gets him the puppy. And what happens in chapter 5? He tells Curly's wife, Curly's wife asks him, how did the puppy die? And he tells her, he made like he was gonna bite me, and I made like I was gonna smack him. And then I did, and then he was dead. And we also see it in The Girl with the Red Dress. We learn of the girl with the red dress in chapter 1. We hear the whole story in the middle of the book where he goes to feel this dress because he wants to touch things that are soft, scares the girl, and doesn't know what to do and holds on and doesn't know his own strength. Chapter 5, Curly's wife, touching things that are soft. This time it's her hair, not her dress. Scares her, doesn't know what to do and holds on, but this time Steinbeck is specific that his hand was covering her mouth and her nose at the same time so she couldn't breathe. And then when he shakes her, he snaps her neck and he doesn't know his own strength. Also in chapter 1, when George tells Lenny about the dream farm, he never gets to finish. He has to stop because the beans are burning and their dream is interrupted, just like it would be later on in the story. And then one final piece of foreshadowing, the chapter ends. Chapter 1 ends with the coyotes yammering off in the distance. A pack of coyotes on the hunt who found their prey. The book ends the same way. A pack of humans on the hunt for Lenny. George gets there first and interrupts. So right there in chapter 1, Steinbeck tells the entire story for Of Mice and Men. Right here in 14 lines, Shakespeare tells the entire story for Romeo and Juliet. So, with that said, you've got a link to a website there. And now this website will show you the original text in early modern English. There's also buttons on the side so you can see it the way we speak nowadays. It'll read it out loud to you, and you can get an audio version right there. So take a few minutes, follow that link, and check out the prologue for Romeo and Juliet. I'll see you guys soon.